We sailed in bold with mics in hand, two holy fools upon the strand, a rabbi wise, a friar stout, both prone to sing, both prone to shout. What the Frock is going on here, we may not know, but still we cheer. Raise your voice, your glass, your brow, because the Frock is happening now.
Good morning, America. How are you? I am Rabbi Dave, and happy Purim? Question mark.
Good morning, America. I am Friar Rod, and a happy Georgia morning.
How is the weather down in old Georgia this morning?
Today it's supposed to hit the mid-70s. It's been low 60s. Our first day here was in the 30s, so it's very dramatically shifting.
As I recall from my decade down there, that's pretty normal. Freezing one day, spring the next. Of course, the plants will start opening up and the pollen will start flying.
Yep.
I never had a problem until I went to Georgia.
Really?
And then, ever since then, I don't know what it is down there, but whatever it is got me. And now, even here, I dread spring here. March is always miserable for me, as you know.
You would have had a problem in the Central Valley. If you hadn't before, you would have had one.
I did, but it didn't last very long. That was the weird part about that, is it was pretty short, as I recall, maybe a couple of weeks. Those almond blossoms were bad, but they were relatively quick.
It's the dust and all of that in the valley.
That didn't bother me. It was the almonds that got me. Sorry.
Okay.
The almonds that got me. Speaking of things that got me, just a reminder of something that I teach, preach, say on a pretty regular basis. It's never what is done. It's never what is said. It's always, and I mean this with all the intensity that I can matter, it's always who does it or who says it. And what we have witnessed over the last 24, 36 hours is, once again, reminder and proof of that. The same people who are screeching about congressional approval and all of that nonsense are the same people who were dead silent, crickets, when Joe Biden invoked the War Powers Act 19 times, when Barack Obama invoked the War Powers Act 28 times, 28 times. 6 in his first term, 22 times in his second term. They were dead silent when Bill Clinton invoked it 38 times. By far and away, the most times it had ever been used. And for those of you who may be wondering, well, Dave, what is the War Powers Act?
What is the War Powers Act, Dave?
Well, doesn't Congress have to declare war? Isn't that the rule? Isn't what these people are saying, left and right? Not left and right, but
yeah. Didn't they kind of abdicate some authority to the president?
In 1973, there was a great deal of concern over what was going on in the world. And for those of you not old enough to remember this, we had the conflict in Vietnam, which most people refer to as a war, but legalities mean that you never refer to it as a war, you refer to it as a conflict, because it was not a declared war. And the way that we got into the morass that was Vietnam is a study in ego, systems, politics. Lyndon Johnson was a master at those sorts of things. Lyndon Johnson, who, by the way, held a Silver Star for combat service in World War II. You know how he got his Silver Star?
No, I don't.
He happened to be on a plane, a bomber that he was not assigned to, that got hit by some flak. And they made it back, and they gave him a silver star for that.
Huh.
Politician, so of course they did. Lyndon Johnson was a master at politics. And of course you had the Red Scare, you had all this stuff going on, and so all this lead into Vietnam, all of this drive into Vietnam, none of which was done with a declaration of war. Now, of course, we hadn't declared war in Korea. However, there was some traditional flow to that. That was done under the United Nations banner. And so this theoretically, maybe it didn't need it. But in Vietnam, it was just us. Now, okay, other countries sent troops, but this was our deal. And they built this thing to the point where we lost 58,000 people for a war that the American people, arguably, never supported. Didn't want. It made societal changes, including an amendment to the Constitution that lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. Not because 18-year-olds are brilliant and know how to vote, but because if we're going to say we're going to draft you and send you to Southeast Asia to die, you should at least have a vote. Which made sense at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Was the fastest amendment ever ratified. That said, there was a great deal of concern by 1973 about how this was happening. Richard Nixon had a secret plan to end the war in Vietnam, which apparently turned out to be carpet bombing North Vietnam and Laos and a Cambodian incursion. Not here to recite all of the history of the Vietnam conflict, but many in Congress were unconvinced that that was going to win the war. In retrospect, it turned out that Nixon was probably right. By bombing North Vietnam significantly, he did force them to the table. Maybe he should have done it sooner. Who knows? But with the reaction to what was going on, Congress got upset about this, and so they passed a piece of legislation known as the War Powers Act of 1973. This is Congress passing this, a Democrat-controlled Congress, by the by. Passed this bill, which essentially said that the president has our authority to intervene militarily when he deems necessary. Hostilities, situations where hostilities are imminent, foreign territory while equipped for combat, we send these troops into, the president has our authority to do that. However, if U.S. forces are used, he has 48 hours to report to Congress, to submit a report to Congress.
This is post.
Yeah. During that 48 hours, so this war with Iran started on Friday afternoon.
Uh-huh.
So what's 48 hours from there? Monday-ish? It's 48 hours. The president has 48 hours to submit a report to Congress. As if they can't read the New York Times or watch ABC, which during a Flyers game will interrupt for a 5-minute report about news that's hours old. Not that I'm bitter or anything, but we're not watching ABC for news.
You didn't send multiple text messages about that at all.
I didn't. I didn't make any posts about it, not multiple posts about it. So that's the first 48 hours. Then 60 days later, 60 days, which, by the way, not bitter or anything, but 60 days to Facebook, which is today,
yeah,
does not mean 60 days. To Facebook, you have to be more than 60 days.
Okay.
Which is why we are not live streaming today, because today is the 60th day. I already had that argument with them. But it doesn't say more than, it says at least. Well, anyway, under the War Powers Act, after 60 days, the president has to obtain either a declaration of war or specific congressional authorization to continue the action. But, ... There there is an automatic 30-day extension to that for safe disengagement, which means that automatically it's 90 days. And in order to terminate the operation, this is where it gets really, really funky. You ready?
Sure.
Congress can pass a concurrent resolution that terminates the operation. So if Congress really was upset about this Iranian thing today, they could pass a concurrent resolution.
They could propose and pass it.
And that theoretically would end it. However, it requires a presidential signature to make it law.
Great.
Which means that the president is most likely to veto that, which means now you need two-thirds.
Is there a time frame that he has to actually decide to veto or sign it?
10 days. Legislation.
Okay.
10 days. So, or he could just pocket veto it and not do anything. So, there you go.
So basically, Congress gave up their powers to be a part of this whole.
Congress has always
solution.
given up their powers, going all the way back to the Brig Aurora in 1798. Congress has spent its entire existence trying to figure out how to get the president to do everything. And again, it pisses me off. It should piss you off, but
yeah,
it's politicians. And presidents have always looked at this and said, well, why would I accept more power from Congress?
Wink, wink.
Well, actually one did. When this bill was originally passed, the War Powers Act of 1973, Nixon said, that's not constitutional. You know, Nixon, the guy that you all hate, vetoed this bill. And it was overridden by Congress, Republicans and Democrats. Here, Mr. King, that we don't like, no kings, please take this authority from us. Now, the War Powers Act does not define what hostilities are. What is hostilities?
That seems like it's a rather important distinction. Because it could be anything.
Does it mean shooting? Does it mean threatening to shoot? Does it mean insults? What does hostilities mean?
You silly English kniggets.
Theoretically, it stops presidents from arguing inherently that they have Article 2 authority to take the president to war. Now, every president since 1973, so Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump, 11 presidents, has questioned publicly the constitutionality of it. But none of them have taken it to the Supreme Court and said, hey, make a decision on this.
Yeah. Why would you? It's good to be king.
They all, with the exception of Nixon, use it. It really divides our system quite awkwardly. Congress is responsible for declaring war, which we have not done since 1945, but the president commands the military. I know, 1945, Dave. When did we declare war? We declared war on Romania in 1945, believe it or not. It's a completely unsatisfactory situation.
Yeah.
And it has led to things like what we had in 1991 with the first Gulf War. How many of you remember the vote in Congress to authorize the use of military force against Iraq in Kuwait? I happened to be in Washington, D.C. that day. I was just driving around. I wasn't there for anything. At the time, I was visiting my soon-to-be first ex-wife, but that's the only reason I was there, and driving around Washington, D.C., listening to this vote on the radio. Since this bill was incorporated, as I said, presidents have used it 168 times. And every time, it's never what is done, it's who's doing it.
Uh-huh.
So if Bill Clinton does it, Republicans screech about, well, what about the Constitution? We're supposed to declare war. If Donald Trump does it, then Democrats screech about, well, what about the Constitution? We're supposed to declare war. And it's the thing that pisses me off more than anything is this mindset of it doesn't matter what's done or what is said, only who does it or who says it. And things that I would be perfectly okay with if my guy did it, now I have to act like a complete bitch if the other guy does it.
Because they're my enemy.
Exactly. And nobody stops to think, hey, look, Ayatollah Khamenei was a complete fucking ass. These are the same people who know what this clown has done for the last 30 years. They know that he's the brains behind October 7th. They know how many Americans and other people he's essentially murdered. The blood is on his hands from funding terrorist activities around the world. He's already at war with us.
Yeah.
They know that. And if their side was in power, they would give you these ridiculous posts about how if they could go back in history, if they had a time machine, they would go back and kill Hitler, to keep that from happening.
Sure.
But when it comes to this, because they're not in power, what did they do when they were in power? They made deals that allowed Iran to continue to develop atomic weapons.
Yep.
The United States military is smarter than politicians, I guess, is what I would say. Iran had been the only country in the 1970s that we actually gave F-14s to. We sold them F-14 fighter planes, which were hands down the best fighter plane in the world. I know people are going to send me emails already. Dave, the F-15's better. Dave, the F-16 better. Dave, the F-35. 1979, nothing touched the F-14.
Yeah.
Period. And we were close enough with Iran, good enough friends with Iran, that we sold them F-14s, which they still have. They can't fly them. You know why?
Parts.
Spare parts. There are no spare parts for F-14s. You know why? Because the United States Navy, military, looked at this, the Department of Defense looked at this and went, if we put these F-14s in the boneyard, like we would normally do, like we do with the B-52s and the B-1s, and spare part them as we need them, somehow or another, black market parts will make their way to Iran.
Yeah.
And so the United States military shredded, put in those giant shredders, every F-14 that isn't on display at a museum, which are completely stripped down. It's just the airframe. There's nothing inside them.
Yeah.
Every other F-14 was run through these shredders so that parts could not make their way to Iran. So their F-14s are just sitting there on the runway, they can't do anything, which is great. It led to what happened yesterday. The time, this is like the Olympics all over again. I'm trying to figure out the time changes. And I'm just going to say yesterday, because yesterday was Saturday. Yesterday was the Flyers game when the Flyers beat the Bruins. Yay. Which kept getting interrupted by ABC News to report stuff that you could read online 6 hours before that.
Yeah.
Not that I'm bitter or anything.
Or sending text messages.
Yes. But it's pretty clear that the United States basically bitch slapped Iran's SA-400 air defense system. Basically made it worthless. Which, after what happened in Venezuela, you'd have to think, if you're a third world country, why would you buy any of this Chinese Soviet junk? It doesn't work. And here's the biggest, most powerful air defense system in the world in Iran, and it got shredded.
It was owned.
It didn't even get shredded. It's like it wasn't even there.
Yeah.
And the meeting where Ali Khamenei and his minions were meeting, and that's how I picture them, by the way, as minions, were completely annihilated. Now, that raises all kinds of questions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How did we know where they were and when they were there? And if you're an Iranian, relatively senior guy, and they're looking at you going, okay, you're in charge now. Do you really want that job?
No.
You're looking around the room going, who in this room is on Mossad's payroll? Because they clearly know everything.
Yeah.
What have they injected in me that they know everything and there's nothing I can do about it? Because clearly, the United States, clearly Israel knew everything that was going on. They probably knew which corner of the building Al-Khamenei was at.
Well, they knew where to search for his body.
Yeah. How weird is that? Then there's the prayer app hack. You seen this?
I have not seen this, no. I have been disconnected while on vacation.
So, apparently, Islam, this doesn't surprise me because I have similar apps on my phone I have a Siddur on my phone. It's one of the reasons I love being Kabod, because Kabod just embraces technology. It really does. I have a Siddur on my phone. Siddur, prayer book. I can't see because...
No.
Anyway, and it even tells me what time, when to do these things and stuff like that, if I pay any attention to it.
Yeah.
I'm a bad Jew. I don't. So apparently the Muslims have a similar thing because the call to prayer, the muezzin call, isn't enough. So they have an app that they put on their phones that reminds them when it's time to pray. With me here?
Yep.
Because they have set times. Well, apparently this app got hacked yesterday, and instead of saying, it's time to pray, it kept popping up with, it's time to surrender.
How funny.
It's great. And of course, nobody is admitting to having done this. Nobody is saying, well, whatever. So, the questions now are, how long will this go on? The president yesterday said there's a plan. He said there's a beautiful plan for what happens next in Iran.
Of course, a big, bold, beautiful plan, I'm sure.
He did not say what the plan is. I suspect, and this is purely my opinion, take it for what it's worth, I suspect that the Shah will be invited back soon. The Shah's son is still considered the Shah.
Aren't there more mullahs that need to be addressed or dealt with?
Yeah, but if you are one right now, are you gonna pop up and say, well, now I'm in charge? Because we're gonna play whack-a-mole. Boom, 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 boom. For the next 60 days. At which point Trump will go, okay, we're done. If we need to go that far. And I'm not sure we will. I don't see this lasting long. I really don't. But more importantly, it forces Democrat presidential contenders like AOC and Gavin Newsom to stand up and defend Khamenei.
Yeah.
Which is politically brilliant. The president has put them in a position where not only did they have to not stand up to support Americans,
yeah,
while a Medal of Honor guy with shattered legs stands up, they supported Somali fraud.
Uh-huh.
They supported illegal immigrants. Now they have to stand there and go, well, we shouldn't have taken out Khamenei. Because the same bill that we would use if we wanted to do something, like bomb an aspirin factory in Somalia, shouldn't apply to Trump, and it should only apply to us. Now, I have no faith in the GOP at all, none. One of my favorite maxims is never underestimate the ability of the GOP to fuck things up.
Yeah.
They have been handed on a silver platter the 2026 midterms and the 2028 election. Anybody that actually knows how to do advertising, how to do campaigning, it's over. But I'm telling you,
the trolls on the internet are going to take care of some of that for them.
I don't believe that the Republican Party knows what to do with it.
No.
I've said this before. I think that's why Bongino is back on the air. I think Trump asked him to go back on the air because the people that were on the air, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it, the Clays and Bucks, the Dana Laishes, they're not good enough, and Bongino is. And you can already see it. moving things along the line. Did Calshi, which when remember at the beginning of the year when we were talking about Bongino, it was 56% Democrats going to take over the House. Now it's 81% Republicans.
Huh.
So you can see where it has shifted. I think that's the Senate, not the House. At any rate, it's a very frustrating and very interesting thing that's happening. The president also mentioned yesterday, he came on, I'm not sure if it was a press conference, I'm not sure. There was a comment that he made about it's possible that we will lose people in this conflict.
Yeah.
And he made that comment sort of off the cuff, but he made it as the commander-in-chief. And I think that, at the time when I heard him say that, I was a little, okay, yeah. I mean, this is what we sign up for in the military. We understand that there's danger. We understand that things are going to go wrong. We understand that an F-35 might actually get hit. There was a time when an F-117 got shot down over Serbia.
That bases would be targeted.
That F-117 was hysterical because the kid's standing on the wreckage with the sign that says, sorry, we didn't know it was invisible. Which is kind of, I got to give him credit for that one. But shit happens in combat, folks. And what we did not know yesterday when the president said that was that, and I'm certain that he already knew, was that we have so far lost three folks in this, with 5 severely injured. So it could go up. So as our military goes into harm's way, using the authority granted to the president by the Congress of the United fucking States, I would remind us that those are brothers, sons, daughters, wives, husbands that are on the pointy end of that stick. And we do not want to forget that, even as we are getting rid of a useless, evil, foul, disgusting pig of a regime. Welcome back. I'm Dave.
I'm Rod.
And one of the focal points of this show, we're going to shift gears here a little bit, is always technology and our fascination with the idea that AI is going to take over the world, right?
Yeah.
And we keep telling you it's not going to. I may have to revise that.
Okay.
In a week where multiple quote-unquote operating systems, although as I understand it, one of them isn't even an operating system, have informed its users that if you live in California or Colorado, you can no longer use us because your legislatures are stupid.
Yeah.
That we talked about last week. This idea that ChatGPT, this Beckian conspiracy that AI is going to take over the world, that we regularly mock here because no, it's not. As I said, I may have to reevaluate that.
Okay.
On February 1st, shortly after we finished recording this show that day, I had gone to the gym. Remember this story?
I do.
And I had a snapping in my I thought I'd lost my Achilles tendon.
Yes.
Didn't want to go to the ER, but things kept changing, and my wife, who is a medical professional, said, that's not good, we need to go. So we went to the ER, we sat through the bomb threat.
Yep. We talked about that.
4.5, almost 5 hours there, saw the doctor for literally less than 2 minutes. At which point he said, it's not a torn Achilles, go home. My podiatrist on Tuesday, who I went and saw, who is an Achilles expert, who said to me, quote, I love doing Achilles surgeries, which is kind of a funny thing to say, but it's true, was appalled that no imagery had been issued, none had been taken, none They didn't do anything. They offered me crutches, which I declined, not because I didn't see the need for them, but because after 7 knee surgeries, I already have 5 pairs of crutches and 2 walkers. I didn't need it. Got my own, thanks. And I didn't want to pay them for
another set, yeah.
Right. However, I got the bill yesterday.
Uh-oh.
The entire bill for a level 3 emergency room trip was over $3,000.
Huh.
Of which they wrote off because of my insurance company X amount and essentially handed me a bill for $700 saying, okay, here's your portion of this. And I said, this doesn't seem, that seems pricey.
For 2 minutes of a doctor's time?
Right. I mean, I see my endocrinologist for 15 minutes. He only charges me $250 and an E&M charge because, it's whatever. This doesn't seem right. And so I fed the bill into my scanner.
Okay.
And then I took it into my AI and said, can you explain this coding? What does this coding for a typical level 3 ER trip mean?
Yeah.
And it did its thing. Level 3 usually includes things like kidney stones because AI ChatGPT knows that I've talked about my kidney stones before.
Of course.
And it says, you mentioned recently dealing with those.
It tries to be relational.
Moderate abdominal pain. Chest pain, which turns out to be non-cardiac. Dehydration requiring IV fluids. Moderate asthma flare. Lacerations requiring repair. Significant but stable infections. Now, they will bill you separately under these things for facilities fees, a physician's professional fee, labs, imaging, medications, or procedures. So this bill, this $25.88, would cover the use of the ER room, nursing care, triage, monitoring, IVs, basic supplies, charting, and administrative overhead, blah, 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 blah. So I said, can you explain why this was coded this way? And ChatGPT came back and said, it's sadly normal for America these days.
Yeah.
Because nobody checks anything. You just get the bill and you go, oh, okay. But I said, that just doesn't seem right. There were no labs, no imaging, no meds, no IV, no procedures, no splints, no crutches, no injections, and no supplies, other than the warm blanket they finally put on me 10 minutes before we left. Less than 2 minutes with the doctor.
Yeah.
And I get it. He had a trauma case. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
ChatGPT says, you're right. That doesn't seem right.
Of
Did
course.
you have a deep vein thrombosis? No. Did you rupture the Achilles? No. Was there any risk of a blood clot? No. Did they ever say they were concerned about a blood clot? No. ER coding is not about what they did. As it turns out, it's about, theoretically, what they thought about doing.
Sure.
It's an E&M charge, again. So I said to myself, this is bullshit. And I proceeded to write a letter in which I complained about the fact that you made me sit here for an hour and a half where you didn't do anything because of a bomb threat.
Yeah.
That I know was not true. And then I put in parentheses, go on, ask me how I know it wasn't true. Because I complained about, look, this guy saw me for a minute and a half. There's no procedure. There's nothing.
Yeah.
You're overcharging this. Do I need to call my insurance company and say,
yeah,
you're
fraudulent claim?
Yeah. And then I said to myself, you know what? because this is something that I often do. I put stuff that I have written into ChatGPT and say, where can I clean this up?
Yeah.
And ChatGPT came back and said, Dave, this is a great letter.
However,
don't send it. You're arguing from emotion. If you send this letter, they're going to open it up and say, tough shit, throw it away. You need to make them feel like you are auditing them. And it gave me a brilliant letter.
Really?
Saying, provide me with this specifically.
Yeah.
Why you rationalize this. And it said, leave out the entire thing about the bomb threat and the 2.5 minutes. Don't even, emotionally it feels great, but don't do that, because if you do, they're going to get snitty back. But if it looks like you're auditing them and they're going to react.
They'll waive the fees. They'll go back and cruise it.
Well, that's what it says. It says, look, send this. And then I had to mail it because you can't email it to them. So we went to the post office yesterday on a Saturday to mail this thing. And it said that's most likely what will happen. Most likely they'll just say, we're going to waive $300 or $400.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I also said no payment plan no payment is forthcoming, nor plan will be made until you've provided this and I've discussed it with the insurance company. It put that in that line. So that's like, wait. And that's what ChatGPT came back and said. They will most likely discount something, say, sorry, we're just going to waive this fee or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's possible that they won't, in which case then you do go to the insurance company and you let the insurance company handle that.
Yeah.
But under no circumstances should you pay anything. And it's the uncomfortable truth about healthcare in America. There are two numbers, what it should cost and what hospitals get away with charging because nobody checks on it. And I have decided this year, man, and it's like that E&M charge.
Yeah.
Because I saw the endocrinologist on Thursday, and I asked him about that. I said, what was so complicated that you needed to charge me an extra 20% for this? And he started laughing. He says, I don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah, he doesn't handle it. Yeah.
I said, well, I don't want to see any of those, especially since this appointment went so well that I am now medication free.
Nice.
I am not on any medication at all. Well, I'm on omezaparil, Prilosec, because I have to be, and my blood pressure meds. But diabetically, I'm on no medications at all.
That's fantastic,
None.
Dave.
And I said, so I don't want to see any E&M charges on this bill. And he started laughing.
Did he put it in the transcripts? Because then his assistants will read the transcripts for all of that.
I have no idea because he wasn't writing anything down.
Yeah, it's
because he doesn't remember.
Yeah.
But
I do know, Dave, having worked for a radiation oncology company that had their own billing team and all of that stuff, that I learned a heck of a lot about how billing works and how the healthcare system works. Because they literally will bring in new technology because they can bill more for using it. Yeah. And then they bill to the maximum. They bill over Medicare allowable, right? Because then Medicare allowable is usually the threshold for the payment. And then what they get back as far as the insurance payment, they say, okay, well, we billed this. We didn't get this, and they write off the difference.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, this is, my health, of course, has been an issue for some time. I'm just absolutely determined. That's why the calf thing shattered me so much a month ago today, was because this year I'm determined. This is the year of no surgery.
Yeah.
I am determined to make it through a year without getting operated on. And I was telling my endocrinologist, who I really like, by the way, he's also very young.
Uh-huh.
There's no way he's even 40.
Okay.
And he was talking about 15 years ago doing his internship at a hospice place.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and said, what are you, Doogie Howser? He starts laughing. Anyway, I was telling him, it's weird because I feel this is the best I have physically felt in 20 years. I still
Huh.
have pain. I mean, my knees
Yeah.
still hurt, my shoulder still hurts. But physically, this is the best I've felt, which is part of why I'm able to get off these meds. And he was telling me this fascinating thing about hospice. You ever notice how when people go into hospice, they get better?
Yeah.
For a bit? You know why?
No.
Because they take them off all the meds they're on, and they don't have the side effects from them.
Huh.
He said that's what's happening to you. You're off all these other meds now. You're not getting the side because every medication has side effects.
Yep.
And you're feeling great. And as long as we can keep your blood sugars down, which we're doing, it'll be fine. You'll be great. I'm like, damn. So I might allow him an E&M charge for telling me that, but
Okay.
maybe. It depends on how I feel when I get to that thing. So now all of a sudden I'm wondering, Rod, how many of our listeners, how many people are going, okay, every time I get a medical bill,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to scan it in, because I got a scanner. I'm going to put it into ChatGPT and say, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
Just to see if maybe, I mean, is $200 going to kill me if it's $500 instead of $700? No.
Yeah.
But it pisses me off that they get away with this. And so I'm wondering if ChatGPT, AI, all these things, we read about all these companies firing people now because AI enhancements and how it's, that's why Amazon laid off 16,000 people. We don't need them anymore.
It's an augmented work
Right.
for everyone.
I'm wondering how much that's going to affect medical stuff and medical billing and how many of us are going to start using it. We used to laugh about the Google Docs,
Yeah.
You look up your symptoms on Google and then you go into your doctor and say, well, what about this? And, well, my med school training versus your computer. But
Well, I use Gemini now, and it has access to my Gmail, and so I can ask it questions about some of the stuff in Gmail, and it can pull it all up and reference it and cross-reference it.
I'll tell you what, I'm kind of excited to see what comes of this. I really am. And I don't know how long it'll take them to review it. I don't know how long it'll take them. I doubt seriously that they'll send me back all the stuff that I wanted, the detailed stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably just send me back a letter saying, we've waived this fee or whatever.
Well, that's the theory of lawsuits, right? That's why they settle, because they don't want to deal with the hassle of the actual lawsuit.
And the implied threat that I'm going to escalate this to my insurance company. My insurance company is going to call you and say, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because that's got to scare a hospital or a doctor's office or anything else. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought it was fascinating. It was a fascinating adventure in AI and the use of AI.
I've used ChatGPT to write legal style letters, and it's fantastic for that.
Yeah. It really is kind of cool. Speaking of AI, topic change without a clutch here, shift change without a clutch. Today my album was released.
Okay.
So for those of you who aren't keeping up, I used to be in a band back in the early 2000s, Kobe Gill and the Slippery Fish Band. I was the bass player and vocalist, and we all wrote music, and it was all original music. And I wrote probably 25 songs for that band.
Mm-hmm.
Only one of which was ever publicly performed because it's a band, folks. And if you know anything about creative processes, you know why the Beatles broke up, right? Because you had three highly creative people in a very small room.
Uh-huh.
And then Ringo. And that doesn't work. And we had basically the same thing. We had three highly creative people in a very small room. And eventually you get on each other's nerves. So anyway, I've had all these songs. Now, these songs are not AI. I want to be clear about that. This music is not AI. This is music that I wrote as much as 25 years ago. I have all the original demo tapes, so I can prove that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I thought to myself, look, these demo tapes are never going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I started, and Rod can tell you this because I've been working on this for a year.
Yeah.
I started running it through Suno and editing and pushing and pulling and prompting. And eventually I got to the point where I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It certainly represents what I wanted it to sound like. And so I thought, well, how do I get this on Spotify?
Mm-hmm.
So I figured out how to do that. It's not as cheap as it should be, but now my album is on Spotify.
Call out to my friend too that helped out, who's done some of that already. So Chad's an awesome guy, and
Chad was helpful in the final stages of that, and I've got another album coming out on the 17th. That's all the music that I've written for Liberty 250. Well, half of the music that I've written for Liberty 250, because according to ChatGPT, you don't want more than 14 songs on an album.
Okay.
Unless it's a double album and you advertise it as such, and I don't want to do that. So the first half of that music will come out on the 17th on Spotify, iTunes. Supposedly it's on YouTube, but damned if I can find it.
Huh.
So I don't know. But it's definitely on. I've seen it on iTunes. I've seen it on Spotify. So pretty proud of that. And if you like it, great. And again, it is my voice. It is my bass guitar. It's AI enhanced, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But it is my voice and my bass. So wait, who just won? India wins by 5 wickets. Anyway, so pretty proud of that. AI, maybe it is going to take over the world, Brad.
Maybe
we should catch up. Welcome back. I'm Dave.
I'm Rod.
So it's never what was said or who or what was done. It's always who and that did it. Part 2, ... I realize this won't apply to most of you, but here in Washington State, we're having some major convulsions over our budget because Washington State has a huge $12 billion deficit.
Yeah.
We have 7 million people. We have a $12 billion deficit.
That's ridiculous.
It's insane. It's all spending, and part of the process is they're trying to enforce an income tax, which is against our state constitution. The assumption is that they've already bought off all the Supreme Court justices that they need, and they're going to decide that income is not property. I mean, we've already tried it. Income is not property, so therefore it can be taxed.
Huh.
And once all the millionaires leave, then they're going to lower that threshold.
Of course.
Which means the rest of us are going to get fucked over with an income tax.
So when you're moving.
Look, I've already said to my wife, we need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
But she can't retire yet, and she doesn't want to give up her retirement. So, literally,
aren't they going to attack the retirement at some point?
Yes, they are. They are raiding retirement funds for the public sector unions, who are not happy about this. Retirement funds are being raided for public sector unions because they can do that. Now, they can't do, private sector ones yet, but they're going to try.
Yeah.
So in the middle of all this is a fundraising, what I call a fundraising measure. I have long said that DUI is not treated correctly in this country. Driving under the influence.
Uh-huh.
I have always said, if it's really the crime that we want to believe it is, treat it as attempted murder. There is no one in this country who does not understand that if you drink and drive, you are trying to kill someone.
Yeah. Whether
that someone is you or someone else is irrelevant to me. But we don't treat it that way. In California, what is it, something like 95% of DUI arrests get pled down to wet and reckless?
Something like that.
It's insane. Well, the same thing happens here. So it's just a way for lawyers to make more money handling these cases, which then they feed back into lobbying funds for politicians. So the theory here is one of these bills, we're going to lower the BAC level for DUI from 0.08 to 0.05. Makes sense? I don't think so, but I can't see it having that big of an effect. I really can't.
I can't either, because when you think about it, they can't do breathalyzers if you've recently eaten. It messes with the readings.
Yeah, but they don't tell you that.
No, they don't tell you that. So in the course of, if you've had something or eaten something with it, it's like, okay, well, the readings are going to be skewed. But that's such a minute amount, the 0.05.
Exactly.
So minute.
And I can tell you from personal experience, having done those DUI shows, that the functional difference between 0.08 and 0.05 is not noticeable. You're not going to affect how you drink. For me personally. Now, obviously, every person is different.
That's another thing.
I can tell you that once I get to about 0.1, whatever it is, I have problems running a radio show at that point. Plus, I am a very sleepy drunk. So,
there you go.
So that's not good. But 0.05, that's like one drink.
It's supposed to be. 0.04 is one drink technically, but even then, I've had a large glass of wine, and I have a breathalyzer at home, and I have tested myself to see where that falls, and it wasn't even close. It was like 0.02.
Well, so the obvious conclusion here is that this lowering from 0.08 to 0.05 is solely so that they can increase revenue.
Yeah.
By making more DUI arrests and putting more people through the system to pay fines and lawyers and everything else, most of which will then be pled down to a wet and reckless. And we still won't do anything about the habitual DUIs, the ones with 4, 5, 12, 15, 20 DUI arrests that are still on the streets, because you don't really need anything to get keys and get behind the wheel. So this debate comes up this week over this bill in the Washington State Legislature. The Democrat leader shows up to this debate drunk off his ass.
That's actually so funny.
He was drinking before a debate about a 0.05 BAC. Now, in fairness, he wasn't driving, but is legislating any better?
No, it's worse.
In some ways.
You should propose a bill that if you have anything over a 0.05, you cannot sign or approve of any legislation.
Can't vote at all.
Can't vote.
Yeah. So needless to say,
here's your breathalyzer that goes into the voting system. You gotta breathe before you can vote.
Along with your photo ID.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, this bill did not pass, and this guy has been forced to publicly apologize. Wasn't my best moment, he said.
Yeah, think?
And in the meantime, they had the hearing on the income tax. Now, Washington State has an interesting system in which you can go to Olympia and stand in line, like a public comment system, and comment. Or, I'll give us credit for this, we have this online system where you can log into the system, log into the bill, and register your position on the bill, pro or con. And theoretically, that's supposed to be the same as if you were standing in front of the legislature and they were listening to you saying, I'm against this bill. So, if you have a bill that the Democrats really want, and you have something like 150,000 people, which is an all-time record of people commenting on a bill, saying, no, this is a really bad idea. Your income tax is unconstitutional, and we, the people of the state of Washington, who, by the way, have voted already on this 7 times and said no, and we're saying no again. What's your reaction?
Well, it depends. I mean, if you're self-delusional and in power in the government, you're going to just say, oh, maybe there's a system glitch and it didn't record everything.
They're all bots.
Yeah.
That's the exact quote. All these people voting against this are just bots.
How would they know that?
Well, the question is, how would they know that when it actually has one of those things that you click that says, I am not a bot? Click.
Yeah.
And people started filling out their names as Dave Bowman, Silverdale, Washington, not a bot.
That's hilarious.
But they passed it anyway because
Of course.
they're all bots. So, here in Washington, the fiasco continues. Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Dave.
I am Friar Rod.
And, again, Rod is down in Georgia, so I'm glad you're with us. When do you come back?
Wednesday. Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is, of course, I'll be out of town next week, and I will not
What?
have access. So,
Come on, Dave, man. What's the deal?
sorry. I mean,
Although you do most of the work for this, I will have to say so.
my wife said, hey, do you want to go away for a weekend? And I said,
I'm feeling
hell
really
no.
good right now.
why would I want to do that? So we're going away for a 3-day weekend, but we're doing it not on a weekend. We're doing it on Sunday through Wednesday. So
Okay.
I won't be here next week, nor will I be on.
Yeah, we could record earlier. I don't know.
We could. Do you want to?
Okay. I mean,
We'll think about it.
I'll be San's wife because she's staying in Georgia, so
Yeah.
Friday
Well,
or
let's
Saturday
think,
works.
Let's think about that, because that's a possibility too. But I won't be on Bill Mick on
Yeah.
Tuesday the 10th either. I will be there this week, but not next week, because we'll be doing that. So when we come back, however, we're gonna make a few minor tweaks to the show. Number one, we will be more than 60 days old,
Yay!
which means that we can live stream.
Yeah, for those that aren't
So-
attending church services on Sunday morning and want to watch us.
Yeah, I don't know who you would be, but okay. So we'll be doing that. I discovered this week that we can upload segments to Instagram,
Okay.
but ... not the whole show.
Okay.
It has to be 20 minutes or less.
So we're going to break it into 20-minute
So
segments.
If you notice, normally our first segment's somewhere between 30 and 35 minutes long. Usually that's our big discussion. And then we got a 10-minute discussion, then a 5-minute discussion. We're going to have to kind of manipulate that so that we get at least that first segment down to a 20-minute discussion.
So I've been asked, Dave, while I'm here, I've been asked why we do this format that we do. So it might help to explain why you also choose to.
I do this because it's a podcast, so I'm not bound to a clock. There was some discussion at one point about actually putting this show on the radio, which would have bound us to a clock.
Yeah.
And I'm not excited about that. I guess in a way, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but I've been around radio for a long time.
Yeah.
And there are people that I've always tried to emulate in radio. Steve Zabin is one of my favorites. I love the Steve Zabin show and his podcast, and I've always liked that cast show identity. But I guess when it comes to formatting, the old Don and Mike show out of WJFK in Washington, D.C. back in the 90s, and they basically didn't give anything about commercial breaks. They just didn't care, which as a radio station, you had to be aware of.
Yeah.
You had to, and one of the reasons they did that was to force the radio stations to have an actual physical board up and not use tones to automatically do it. So you had to pay someone to board up their show rather than just letting it automate. So, and I always kind of liked that format where they would just go until they were done, and then if they needed to take a break, they would.
Okay.
Now, obviously the top of the hour stuff, but
Yeah.
But I always appreciate it. I thought it was pretty funny. And being a radio guy, I was bemused by the fact that they were basically sticking at the station saying, if you want our show, which is, by the way, on the East Coast at that time was you can talk about your Howard Sterns all you want. Don and Mike were
Yeah.
above that. And but they were basically sticking to, if you want us, you have to have a board up. And Sacramento was the station that lost on that argument. There was a station, Grant Napier. Remember Grant Napier?
Yeah, I do.
Used to call the Kings games. And you'll notice his show was supposed to start at 6 p.m. or something, and he blew a gasket one day because Don and Mike went over and wouldn't stop, and he blew a gasket. And Don and Mike were in Sacramento the next week, and my cousin Rob and I went to the live show, and it was 10,000 people chanting, "Grant Napier sucks! Grant Napier sucks!" It was the most awesome thing in the world. So when someone says radio doesn't have power, it does. So the answer is, it's a podcast. I don't need a format.
Yeah.
But if I want to put stuff on Instagram, I can only go 20 minutes, and it's so hard to edit that stuff down to 20 minutes. I mean,
so are we gonna have a What the Frock Instagram account?
I don't think so. Don't we both have Instagram accounts?
We do.
Just use those.
We can.
Yeah. Just follow us on Instagram. I don't need any more work. I mean, it's going to be a pain in the ass enough to tune this down to 20 minutes. And anyway, I don't know. It's like anything. Be flexible. We can be talked into anything, I guess, but it's just more work.
Yeah.
I'm not even absolutely certain that it's necessary. It's not going to see. Here's a little inside baseball about podcasts. Okay. There is a number, and I'm not going to tell you what the number is. If you're really interested, you can look it up, but there is a number that each podcast episode should get in downloads to be considered successful. And that number is over X amount of time because of the way podcasts work. So you release a podcast, you have X number, the clock starts, and during that clock, if you get above that number, that episode is considered to be viable. We exceed that significantly on a regular basis. We've had a couple of times where we didn't, but as a general rule, we're not kidding when we say we're in the top 10% in the world of podcast downloads.
Yeah.
Does that mean we're Joe Rogan?
No.
No, but it's I consider it to be a successful podcast. And what we are is consistent, except for next week. Sorry. Most podcasts last less than 5 episodes. People sit down and they go, well, I have this great idea. They do 5 episodes if they get that far, and then they just die.
Yeah.
Something like 70% of the podcasts you can get on podcast, is it iTunes podcast or Spotify, are 5 episodes or less. Because they're dead. They haven't updated them in years. We're better than that.
Mm-hmm.
We are a successful, monetizable podcast, although I don't want to deal with that tax issue. So I feel like what we're doing is good, and I feel like people like it.
We're increasing listeners.
Yeah, it goes up every week, and that consistency is the key to that. And frankly, it's fun.
Yeah.
And I don't want to mess with something that works. I really don't. But I do like the idea of at least having a clip to be able to put out there on. Maybe that's what we should do. Maybe instead of a full 20-minute segment, because who's going to watch that?
Yeah.
Especially since it's not video, it's just audio. Maybe we should just put, a funny clip, which we'd have to find one.
You'd have to, well, that means we have to generate them too.
Yes, just more work for Dave. But in his copious free time, now that he's retired, which you should do, it's great.
Yeah, thanks.
I guess I could get that done. But not this week. This week, I'm going on a small vacation honeymoon with my wife. And on that note, I'm Rabbi Dave.
I am Friar Rod.
And this has been...
What the Frock?
So grab your frog and come aboard. This nonsense can't be ignored. We joke, we gripe, we spin, we sing. While Rome burns on, we'll do our thing. What the frock is going on here? We may not know, but still we cheer. Raise your voice, your glass, your brow, because the frock is happening now.